buying a property in Singapore is 3.2 million. 1 year will lose $1 million. That's how much you can lose by buying a Singapore property. Guys, today is going to be a very different video, but I just want to express my shock for all the project launches in the past few weeks, because I've been to the show flat. It's not exactly that crowded, and even my friends, the ICs, so a little bit kanchiong because the show flat wasn't as packed as they were expecting. However, the check count over the last few launches has surprised me, even though by right I'm not supposed to be surprised, but it surprised me based on the visitorship of the showroom. It just goes to show that whatever we shared with you in our previous videos and whatnot is the truth, because when interest rates are low and sentiments are getting a little bit better, the markets will be crowded. So for those people that has been following me for the past few years and you have already taken action, congratulations, because you technically already made paper gain. You have seen the average PSF of different regions actually rise already. For those people that are still finding reasons why you shouldn't be buying and you are just watching videos to give yourself negative reinforcement, today I'm going to give you more negative reinforcement, because jokes aside, in this channel we actually preach a lot about prudency and making calculated risk instead of just buying based on blind faith or whatever people tell you. And today's this article, right, is really cherry picking, because I'm going to cherry pick those projects that didn't make money. And honestly, right, I was also quite shocked because the top loss making transaction is a freaking $3.2 million over 3 years. This one is like you lose your whole family already lah. Like 3 over million. But usually this kind of transaction, never mind, I don't talk so much because I may offend somebody and get cancelled over here. But okay, never mind. Let's move on to the next part of the video. Sorry for the long intro, even though it sounded like a joke. Today's article is super important because I always tell my clients, right, if somebody tells you this property can make money, of course. Why? Because generally properties make money. However, what I always advocate is that how are we going to avoid losing money and using the correct matrix? So how we're going to do this video is, number one, we're going to go through a TLDR version of this article. Next, why this seller ended up losing money and what you can learn so that you don't make the same mistake. Last but not least, I'll give you my version of what you should be doing as a buyer in this season, even though everybody is rushing in to buy the new launch, and sometimes even without the walkaway price. The rest of the article basically shows the top profit and loss making resale deals. So 100 pumps of course makes the most money, because any EC you bought before COVID, today you probably be double your money already. Back then, before COVID, most of the ECs were trading $700 to $800 per square foot. That was considered expensive that time already, but because of the low interest rate environment, all the ECs almost double their money if you bought directly from the developer. And the other top profit making deals, Park Pailai last transacted $2.16 million, bought at $1 million in year 2016. This is interesting because I cannot remember a lot of properties that cost $1 million at the time. It's only $811 per square foot. It's a 999 leasehold property. One Fort, not exactly a property that I'll buy, is a small development, bought at $968 per square foot, sold at $2,000 per square foot, bought $1 million, sold $2 million. High Park Residences, bought $1 million, sold $2 million. How long they hold? 10 years. Fair. Watertown, $1.2 million entry price, exited at $2.3 million from 2012 until today. High Park Residences, bought at $840,000, sold at $1.58 million. Top profit making deals based on quantum. Of course, don't need to talk about this. You just screenshot if you want and you go and read, because these are for our rich friends lah. Poor people like us don't need to look at this kind of property because we cannot afford $10 million for a condominium lah. The next part, it gets more interesting. Why? Because we are talking about the top loss making. For the top loss making deals by percentage will be Scotts Tower, bought at $3.5 million, sold at $1.8 million, basically lose half of whatever you paid for. Marina Bay Residences, bought at $8.3 million, sold at $5.1 million. Reflections Keppel Bay, bought at $4.18 million, sold at $2.8 million. Reef at King's Dock, $2.8 million purchase price, sold at almost $1.5 million. Lose about 8.3% per annum. OUE Twin Peaks, $1.7 million, sold at $1.2 plus million. And based on quantum, right, we don't need to look at it, because like the top profit making transaction, we cannot afford this kind of properties lah, because you buy $8 million for condo means you must be super rich lah. Boy, Bellevue Residences, bought at $10.5 million, sold at $7.9 million, and it was 2013. New Futura, bought at $10 million, sold at $8 million. Scotts Tower, $3.5 million purchase price, sold at $1.83 million. Reflection, again, $4.18 million, sold at $2 1.8. So you can see the reflection and the Marina Bay, the top loss based on quantum and percentage, actually they crossfire because 3 of which are the same units lah. Scott's, Reflection and Marina Bay Residences. For the TLDR version of this article, and now I'm going to deep dive into these 3 units that actually made a loss, because I look at the article, usually they won't deep dive into the floor plans and whatnot, but this is what I like to do, like, because it's my hobby, to go and do some due diligence to check why people lost money, so that you as the viewer and myself as the buyer, or you as the buyer also, are getting a bit confused, we can actually make more well-informed decision why these properties make lost money based on my personal observation, and how you can also avoid, so that you can avoid making similar mistakes as well. Because I always say history will never repeat itself, but when you look at the data, it often rhymes. To disclaim myself first that actually every development has its profit and loss-making transactions, so you can't really use a blanket statement to say that that development itself cannot make it. Why? Because I always let my clients know that actually when you buy a property, it's never about whether the development is good. Even today, if you talk about Lim Chu Kang, if there's a new launch over there, can you buy? People will of course say no lah, but if you are only buying at $100 per square foot, can buy or cannot buy? So let's not always be blinded by, oh, this development cannot, because most of the time, more often than not, it's actually based on your own emotion, because you don't like that place or you don't really know that place very well. So having said that, right, let's first look at Reflections, but I want to deep dive into the unit that actually didn't make money, which is none other than this unit on level 1. Basically, it's perched on the lower blocks lah. They bought it at $4.1 million, sold at $2.8 million, and if you look at the pricing itself, the $1,600 per square foot is pretty fair for the current market context. Why? Because this is a patio unit. So if you look at the average PSF in Reflections at Keppel right now for typical 3-bedder units, the average PSF is ranging around $1,700 over dollars per square foot, and this unit being a patio unit, I went to check, the typical unit just upstairs is actually 1,600 square feet, and this unit is about extra patio space of about 100 square feet. So selling at about 1.6 plus PSF actually is quite reasonable. But the shocking thing when you see, right, is actually the entry price, because I checked $2,400 per square foot based on their entry price. During the year of 2012, the average PSF over there is only $2,000 per square foot, and even if I trend up for the next few years, right, actually there isn't $2,400 per square foot. Like, yeah, only during 2014 there was one outlier at 3,001 PSF. So long story short, entering at $2,400 per square foot at that season, right, was already overpaying. Why? Because back then I can see 1,008, 1,007, 1,009, few transactions above 2,000 and maybe $2,100 per square foot. There was one transaction in 2013, there were 3 transactions resulting into an average PSF of $2,600 per square foot, after which, right, the cooling measure, actually 2004 was clearly not the market price that time lah. Why? Because who will pay $2,400 per square foot when back then was $2,000 PSF and below? I cannot comment too much on that lah. Okay, but that's my post-mortem. But in terms of the layout of this unit and whatnot, the development itself, I don't think there's a major issue. You're not selling yourself short. It's just that the entry price right from the beginning was too much. And sorry if you are the agent or the seller watching this, it is what it is. Next transaction we're going to talk about is the 21st floor unit that was actually transacted at $1.83 million with a purchase price of $3.5 million. This one really very painful, right? So TOP 2016, 103 years. Basically, right, this development, total number of units, 231 units, considered decent size. But if you actually take a clearer look at this development, right, the units back then for a 2013 development, 850 square feet for 2-bedroom, 646, 657, 667, 624, and the largest unit type is actually just 850. And then most of the units are very, very small units, because if you look at the floor plan of this 2-bedder, which is marketed as a 2-bedder unit, right, when you walk in, there's a what is this floor plan? I cannot even read the floor plan, because you know why? Because there's a master bedroom when you walk in, there's a boss area. What is that? What is the boss area? Then the lift. What? This floor plan, I cannot even understand What is called a boss area? What is a boss area supposed to mean? Then there's a platform furniture. That means it's a loft unit lah. That means they actually sell it to you as a concept that you can buy and then you can build additional space over here. I don't want to go on and on with this lah, but sometimes when you look at the floor plan, it tells you story why this development never make money. So aside from the floor plan, actually if you look at the purchase price itself, right, the entry price of $4,000 per square foot. That means check, $4,000 per square foot. My goodness, how the person pay $4,000 per square foot back then? Look at the entry entry price itself back then in 2011, 2012, that time, right, you pay $4,000 per square foot. It's really like you buy already, people will be there. They'll come out with the, what you call that? Popper. You buy that, everybody is so proud of you because $4,000 per square foot back then wasn't normal. Let me just go to Rivergate, one of my favorite projects. I always tell my wife, if one day we were to retire, we want to buy one property to stay right in River Valley area, we will go for Rivergate. Why? Because I just like the development. If you go back to 2012, that time, a freehold property back then, how much is it? Bro, $2,000 per square foot only. And it's a much nicer development. You look at the unit mix, 2 bedrooms are 1,000 square feet, the 3 bedrooms are 1,500. The 4 bedrooms are 1,700 square feet and is seated on almost 300,000 square feet of land, 545 units, right? Basically, this is a very, very nice own stay development, right? So if you ask me, when you look at this, right, what's your take on this? But did they overpay buying 103-year leasehold at double the price of a 999-year leasehold? Big development? Let me know inside the comments. Last one, Marina Bay Residences. I went to check this listing by Shirley and whew, look at the views. So nice. You get a view of the most expensive building in Singapore, none other than Marina Bay Sands. If you ask me, selling at $5.1 million, to me it's also a little bit weird. Why? Because the PSF around the area is about 2.6 plus for most of the units they are asking in Property Guru. And if you look at the transacted prices based on 4 bedders, you see transactions on 21st floor trading for 2,500 plus per square foot. 4 bedders sold at $6 million. I really don't understand why the 17th floor was transacted at $2,144 per square foot. Is obviously an outlier because the average PSF around that area is actually about 2,005, and this unit, if I'm not wrong, has Marina Bay views. But if you look at what resulted in the losses was again very, very clear. If you look at the transacted pricing in year 2022, the owner actually bought it at $8.326 million at $3,500 per square foot, which was actually a decent price because 10 years before that, 2013, the previous owner bought it for $9 million. And now they're actually buying at $8 million in 2022. So it sounds like a good deal because you actually bought at a lower price than the owner. Which sometimes in this situation, if you are using stock trading example, right, you're catching a falling knife. Why? Because eventually you exited at $2,144 per square foot. Even though this is not the average median pricing for this current market. But even if you sell at $2,005, you're also losing $1,000 PSF and a $2 million total capital loss. Layout wise, facing wise, I don't really see a huge problem with this. I'm just thinking, right at the beginning, why did they pay $3,500 per square foot at that point? Because 2022, there was a lot of capital flowing into Singapore after the COVID pandemic, and these kind of units were extremely popular for the foreigners. YK, if you know what I mean. But because this is very sensitive, I cannot talk too much. But let me know what you think you get. There's a lot of things that I cannot say on YouTube, so if you find that buying properties, listening to stories is also quite interesting, right? Just drop me a DM if you are really serious about buying, just to chit chat. Don't disturb me. So in short, the losses we are seeing is not really a market-wide kind of thing. It's just very segment specific. But what I'm trying to say over here is that if you are looking to buy a property and you want to avoid making losses, first and foremost, you need to make sure that you're not overpaying as compared to the development itself. Just like the Reflections Keppel, they're paying $2,600 per square foot when the median average that time was only $1,008. Just because you like it, that's quite a recipe for failure. Number two, do not overpay within the region. Looking at Scott's Tower, right, $4,000 per square foot back then, where you can actually pay $2,000 per square foot for a similar age property, larger development, 999-year leasehold, Rivergate. Why are you paying $4,000 for a 103-year leasehold Scott's Tower? Again, major red flag. Next, try to avoid Mickey Mouse unit means a development which is a very small plot of land or one pencil development, but they built 200 units there because all units are 100, 500, 600, 700 square feet, which most people actually buy for investment only. So not typically your own stay. I will term it under Mickey Mouse. I will link it in the description. You can get a clearer understanding of what that is. Last but not least, which is why I always advocate in this channel, is only buy when you have holding power. Because if you see the guy in Marina Bay Residences selling at $2,100 per square foot, it's clear and obvious that if they had the holding power, they can actually sell at a higher price because just a few months before that, the 21st floor was transacted 10 to 15% higher, and the rest of the development, nobody is selling at $2,001. So the only reason why this person sold at $2,001 was clearly due to a lack of holding power. So last but not least, what you should be doing as a buyer, I will always fall back to my 3 golden principles, which is number 1, start saving buying and start investing as early as possible, because as we age, our amount of leverage will actually decrease. Number 2, constantly upsize your asset net worth by upgrading to the next asset class, because we need to move up the ladder to grow your net worth. Last but not least, always have a 18 to 24 months safety buffer or reserve funds of your available capital to tide through difficult times, so that you won't be forced to sell during hard times. Advice to buyers today is that number 1, don't rush because people are rushing. Because in this market, right, after you have gone through so many rounds of new launches already and you kind of feel fatigued, right, it's quite common for you to just say that, hey, let me just buy this because everybody is buying. For me, it's always important to have a clear walk-away price, and the walk-away price is not just based on the development specific. You need to look at the comparison between different unit types within other developments. For example, if you're actually buying an RCR development, if you're paying $3,000 per square foot, you need to look at other regions. What is the price gap between your development versus the higher tier one, which is the CCR? How much is the PSF for that unit specific? Then in the OCR, what is the gap? Because a lot of people will always say that I buy this development will make money. Today's article already show you very clearly this development, there are people that make money and people that lost money. It's really down to what is the entry price that you are paying. The next clan of people that you click through, obviously you want to see people lose money and you are very, very concerned, right? I would think that time is also equals to money. If you have gone through launches and launches and launches and somehow you cannot wrap your head over the PSF of the new launches already, maybe you can just consider buying the resale property, or even consider the low-hanging fruits today, which are the post-launch where the developers have already locked in a lower entry price back then. Because one thing I observed today is that a lot of people are actually going for the lottery effect. That means after one launch, you cannot get, you are just chasing launch after launch. There are some low-hanging fruits today in the market today that you can buy at the old price tag. So ask yourself this question: are you really looking for value buys, or you are just following the hype to go launch after launch? Being said that, right, if you wish to get my consult and get my opinion about what you should be buying in this season, right, this is my number. Feel free to reach out to me, and I hereby congratulate all those people that actually got your units during the ballot. And for those people that have not gotten your ballots, good luck for the next launch, or maybe you can consider the post launches lah. So give me a call if you need to. See you next week. Bye.